Hello and welcome to today's online video. We've just been told that we'll probably be, I don't like to say confined, I say on retreat for another month here in France. So I do hope that the yoga is at least helping you pass the time, but hopefully doing more than that, giving you a sense of calm, a sense of achievement really. Here you are again. Perhaps this is the first time you've watched this particular class, or maybe you've been practicing every day. It's kind of an ideal opportunity to delve a little bit more deeply into your yoga practice. So I do hope that you're getting something out of this time, silver lining as it were. So let's start with the yoga. We're going to start, as nearly always, lying down. So lying down with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor, and just taking that precious time to really allow your body to find the ground beneath you. There's a sense of spreading the body over the ground beneath you, melting into the ground. Just moving around in whatever way feels releasing. The arms can be wherever they feel most comfortable. But yeah, keep the knees bent for now, just to really feel the connection of the ground beneath you. Let's just focus on those feet for a moment. Can you feel the toes kind of just spreading a little bit, as if they were exploring? Imagine you're lying on a sandy beach and the toes just exploring, wriggling into that sand, and then just becoming lovely and long. I find I'm doing that with my fingers at the same time. You don't have to, your fingers might just be lying on your body, but that was just my fingers wanting to join in a little bit with my toes. And you're aware of each edge of your foot, the outside edge, the inside edge, the balls of your big and little toes, and each side of your heel. And just imagine again, if you were on this sandy beach, feel that the footprints that you're leaving in the sand, again my hands have wanted to join in, are exactly the same. So there's not one foot that's resting more heavily than the other. You're just aware of your breath without trying to change or force your breath in any way. Just remember, in yoga we breathe through the nose, both inhaling and exhaling through the nose. So just observe for a few moments the passage of that air as it enters the body And as it flows through the body, moving the body kind of moves in response to the breath, to let it flow more freely. And then we're going to work again with something we were looking at in quite a lot of detail last week and even the week before, which is this idea of softening the body completely so that the inhalation can arrive freely, swelling your belly. And then when it's time to exhale, just pressing the feet a little bit more firmly into the ground. So nothing but that, just the feet pressing into the ground. And then you don't hold that, you soften again, you let go completely, and the in-breath arrives, swelling the belly. And as the exhalation begins, just that little bit more awareness, sense of pouring down through the soles of your feet. Again, not holding, letting go, softening, the breath arrives. When it's time to let that breath go, in an exhalation, the feet press into the ground. And just continue doing this, softening so that you can breathe in. And then breathing out, pressing both of those feet equally into the ground. And just observe what else is happening in your body as you do this. So as you soften and breathe in, not only does the belly swell, but you might feel that the lower back has arched a little away from the ground. You'll feel that your thighs are releasing, your shoulders are relaxing. And then as you breathe out and the feet pour more deeply into the ground, you'll find that the belly is emptying. It's that feeling of the belly button leaning back into the spine, and your lower back here becomes longer, almost flatter on the ground, without you pushing that. I don't want you to be pulling your tummy button back or pressing the lower back into the ground. It's a very subtle movement. So you soften and the breath comes in. You might feel also the groin area is releasing into the ground. And then as you breathe out, the feet go down. You might feel the thighs beginning to lengthen. Just carry on, and you could turn your attention to what's going on in the upper half of your body as well. So as you soften and breathe in, you've got that soft torso, the breath fills the belly, but also the rib cage expands. And then as you breathe out and the feet sink down, as well as the belly button lying back onto the spine, you might feel the throat resting back towards the spine. You can let your arms do whatever they want to do as you just focus on this sensation of being breathed. Something I talk about a lot in yoga. It's because you soften that the breath comes in. And it's when you pour your feet into the ground that the breath empties. And we just take that a little bit further. Same as last week, we're going to go into a very gentle, low bridge pose. So it's just a continuation of what we're already doing. You soften and the breath comes in. As you pour the feet into the ground and the breath empties, if you take that a little bit further, the bottom begins to float away from the ground. But you're not pushing up, quite the opposite, because as the bottom floats away from the ground, you're exhaling, so your belly is sinking back towards the ground. The groin is releasing. And then you soften. The breath comes back in. The lower back arches a little bit more. And then as you breathe out, the feet pour into the ground, the belly button lies back, the throat lies back. Again, the arms might begin to feel a little bit stuck. So just play around with your arms. If your lower back or your hips are feeling stuck, you can play around with them as well. Remember that idea of everything staying loose. So we're talking about softening the body to let the in-breath arrive. You need to keep the whole of your skin soft as well. And so there's no effort here. You might feel your thighs waking up. You might feel other parts of your body waking up. But you're not clenching or holding with those parts of the body. Just softening to breathe in. Sinking to breathe out. Just a few more moments. You may have come down if you're tired. You might want to just try one last time, floating up. And then come all the way back down. Let the bottoms land first. Bring your knees in towards the chest. Heels of your hands, nearly always, on the knees so that you're not pulling with your shoulders. And just be still. Can you feel the warmth spreading through your body after that work? Can you feel your body perhaps tingling or vibrating? And still just observing the breath, soft as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, the awareness of sinking down into the ground. Okay. Roll onto your right hand side. No, actually don't. First of all, because we're going to be doing some standing postures today. So first of all, let's just warm up the legs a little bit. So put your left foot flat onto the ground and just open up your right leg. Now remember here, don't start pushing out through your heel. You can keep the knee nice and soft. The sense that we're looking for is one of connection between this right foot and your spine. So that right foot, use your hands to explore that feeling if you like. It's almost as though with your hands you're feeding that right leg back through the hip to connect with the spine. Now, a little thing we'll come to when we're standing later on, just for a moment, put your fingertips into the crease at the top of the thigh there. And so as the knee folds towards you, there's a sense of space in the crease at the top of that thigh, in the groin. And then you're going to catch hold of the leg wherever is easy for you. So some of you might be able to catch hold of the foot or the big toe. Even, it doesn't matter if the knee is a little bit soft, that can be quite nice. What does matter is that you're not yanking that arm out of its socket. So you need to feel in the same way that this leg is feeding back through the hip towards the spine. When we catch hold with the arm, you need to feel that that arm can feed back through the shoulder to the spine. So if it's too far away from you, the foot, just catch hold around the calf or even around the back of your thigh. And then we're just going to start, without losing that sense of connection, feeding back from hand and foot through the joints to the spine. We're just going to start exploring the full range of movement in this right leg. So lots of possibilities here. You can take the leg out to the side. You can roll a little bit on your back if that's nice. Just keep the left foot. Don't lose that left foot. The left foot is still doing what we were doing at the beginning of class. That is, it's sinking into the ground and feeding back to the spine to help support you, to lighten the posture. You can bring the leg up towards the sky, just as long as everything stays loose. Loose through the lower back, the pelvis, the hips. You can bend the knee towards the ground, alongside your chest. That can feel quite nice. From there, you can open again, out to the side. Might want, this left arm might want to start playing, a little bit like we were doing last week in our back bend preparation, just loosening up that left arm. So the left arm and the right leg feel very similar, and the right arm and the left leg also feel very similar to each other. They're kind of your support. And then let's just wake up the hip a little bit, the right hip. So when you've played around with the right leg, just take the right ankle and place it onto the left knee. And then with your right hand, just gently press that knee away from you. So again, what's happening there is you're opening up that lovely space in the groin area, just by lengthening or pressing that knee away from you. And then, if it's okay, you're going to come up onto your left toes and then lift the left foot away from the ground. Now use your hands in whatever way is useful to you. Don't go, you'll be feeling this a lot in the right hip, the right buttock. If it's too strong, just keep that left foot on the ground. But little by little, if you can lift the left foot, and then the more you, again, without pulling or forcing, ease your way into it, but the more you bring that left knee in towards the chest, the more you'll be waking up that right hip and buttock. If you want to practice lifting your head here, this is quite a nice time to do that, but I think I talked about this not long ago. We don't lift the head from the crown of the head, so you don't try and kind of fight against the weight of gravity, putting strain into your neck and shoulders, but rather you remember that your head is connected to your spine, kind of where it meets the pelvis. And so by pressing that place into the ground, the head floats away and the neck and the shoulders are completely free. And you can just float around there. If it's too much on the neck and shoulders, just bring the head back down. Okay, and then place the left foot onto the ground again. Just gently press that right knee away from you, just opening up through the groin again. That should feel really nice. And then place both feet flat on the floor. And we're going to do the same thing with the left leg. I'm just going to roll around on my mat because otherwise I don't have room for my left leg to open. And then if you begin again by just having both knees in towards the chest, with the heels of the hands gently supporting the knees, and then place the right foot flat onto the floor. Open the left leg towards the sky. Don't push through the heel. Do the opposite. Use your hands to help encourage this feeling. Place both hands onto your left leg and almost as though you were feeding it back up through the hip joint into your spine. And then catch hold wherever is comfortable to you with your left hand. You can let the right arm be free, and without losing that connection between left foot and spine, you begin to play with the left leg. So there's no kind of right or wrong way of doing this. You can be rolling around, lifting the right shoulder, or you can stay flat on your back. Just keep thinking loose. Keep thinking about that little body inside your big body. So if you start to feel the big body contracting and squeezing and tightening, do less. You can be bringing the leg in towards you. You can be opening the leg to the side. You can be bending the knee towards the ground alongside your chest. You can be thinking or exploring with your fingertips that space in the crease at the top of the thigh there. Something we're going to look at later on when we come to stand. So you've seen there I changed hands on my leg. That's a possibility as well. I often think of babies in their cribs just exploring. And as I've said often, you know, it's a whole body experience. So you're not just pulling on your leg to stretch your hamstring, not at all. You're aware of your right foot feeding back from the touch of the ground to the spine. You're aware of your shoulders, your neck, your head, the looseness in those shoulders, that neck, the looseness in your hips. And talking of hips, we're going to now place that left ankle onto the right knee and just press the left knee away from you a little bit, opening up through that groin area. And then use your hands wherever, as I say, wherever is useful, and lift that right foot. If it's too strong, keep the right foot on the ground. And then just explore rolling around on your lower back. The more you bring the right knee in towards you, the more you'll be waking up this hip and buttock. You play on the edge. You don't want to force your way into somewhere that's painful. You want to feel that you're working, but you're not working at stretching. You're working at loosening, softening. Wherever you feel a stretch, move back away from that a little bit and think about softening the skin. And again, if you feel like lifting the head by pressing the lower back into the ground and just letting the head float away from the ground. So you shouldn't be feeling anything in the neck or shoulder muscles. You might well be feeling it in the deep abdominal muscles. If you are feeling it in the neck and shoulders, it's because the abs aren't working, and rather than strain the neck, just put the head back onto the ground. And then take that right foot down. Again, just gently press the left knee away from you, opening up in the opposite direction. And then bring both feet onto the ground. Once more into our bridge pose. So loosen up your shoulders, loosen up your hips. Don't go straight up. Do a couple of breaths where you're simply softening to allow the breath to fill the belly. And then breathing out just the feet, pouring into the ground, the belly button lying back, perhaps the throat lying back. You can begin to feel that kind of tilt in your pelvis, but you don't hold it. You soften and breathe in again. Breathe out. Find your feet. And then on the next time, we'll take that a little bit further, softening as you breathe in. And this time as the feet pour, the bottoms begin to float. Again, don't hold it. Immediately soften and expand. Exhale, let the feet pour down, let the shoulders pour down, the back of the skull, everything lying back onto the spine. Soften and breathe in. There's no sense at all of wanting to push yourself up into bridge. Keep it low. Keep it loose. Keep it soft. Slowly bring the bottoms back down. And you want to just straighten your legs here, mini shavasana. Just let the legs lengthen along the mat, let the palms of your hands open to the sky. Back of the neck nice and long, so don't lift the chin. And just again observe the way that your body is tingling. See if there's any warmth spreading through certain areas of your body. And just let go. Let's draw the knees in mindfully. We learnt to do that a couple of weeks ago. Start with the right leg, just let it completely flop. And then do you remember, you imagine that there's a connection between the heel and the tummy button. You draw the heel in towards you from the spine. And then let the knee float up so your foot is flat on the floor. And then the same thing on the other side, loosen up that left leg. Feel the thread between the heel and the spine. And as if you were a puppet master, drawing that heel towards you. And then the knee floats up and both feet are flat on the floor. Okay, you're going to roll onto your side, nice and slowly because we've been lying for a little while, and find your way up to a standing position. Okay, so we're going to practice Uttanasana to begin with, which is a standing forward bend. And like I say, we're going to really focus today on finding this space in the groin, in that crease at the top of your thighs. Because it really is a feeling of hinging. When we go into any kind of forward bend, whether we're sitting or lying, would we do this lying? Yeah, we could be sitting up, or standing, most particularly. If we find this space and if we get a real awareness of this space, then we can really begin to cultivate that feeling of there being a hinge that allows us through. So let's just begin in a very soft little chair pose. So finding your feet, letting the knees be soft, no sense of sinking down, but rather a sense of through the feet pouring into the ground, the body lifting. Let's just take a few breaths here like we did when we were on our backs. Have your hands however is comfortable. I quite like my hands in prayer here. Reminds me to keep my shoulders nice and round and soft. And just come back to that play. Breathing in, or rather softening the body so that the breath can come in. And then as you exhale, the feet pour into the ground. And just watch how the body responds to that. Can you feel how, without you pulling the tummy button back, that's what happens as you exhale? Exactly the same as when we were lying. So you need to explore this for yourselves. You soften and the breath comes in. Lots of things happen when that happens. Do you remember? The lower back might begin to arch a little. The bottoms are nicely resting. And then as you breathe out and the feet pour down, you might well feel the belly button, the throat travelling back towards the spine, the lower back lengthening a little, and that might cause your knees to open a little. But play with it for yourselves, just a few more moments. If the legs are getting tired, bounce around a little bit or come out of it. then go back in. If you want a little bit more challenge in your legs, don't like that word, then you can soften the knees a little bit more. But again, be careful that you don't suddenly start feeling heavy. But it's quite nice to play around between the two, between a kind of quite high chair and a little bit of a lower chair. So you're not trying to do anything here. You're trying to listen to the body being breathed. You soften, it comes in. As it leaves, the feet pour into the ground and the body responds. Okay, then from this soft chair pose, put your fingers into that space at the top of the thighs and just begin to allow your bottom to float backwards. So it's all in the name, isn't it? This is a forward bend. People so often think of this posture as a downwards bend. The forward and backward movement might well take us down, but that's not where we're aiming. We're aiming to keep space in the groin there. So we need to keep letting the feet sink, but spring back up to the spine so that you're being lifted through your spine. You're not collapsing into that space in the groin. So you might only be able to go, you might just be tilting forwards a tiny bit and that's enough for you. If it starts feeling too strong in the back of the thighs, then either do less or bend your knees a little. Just try to keep focus on keeping the space in the groin, letting your bottoms float backwards and the upper body float forwards. And little by little that may or may not take you down. No collapsing into the crease in the top of the thighs. Your upper body is really light. You should be able to spring back out of this at any point. Don't let your upper body grow heavy. Make sure there's nothing or nobody sitting on your upper back. And then as the feet sink even more deeply into the ground, you can unfold to an upright position. Going to take that same awareness into TRIKONASANA. So we did this the week before last, as a floating posture, a flying posture. Today we're going to see if we can go a little bit deeper, but the feeling is the same. In fact, let's just start with a floating one, just to remind you, and then we'll see if we go a little bit deeper. So the right foot has come forwards, the right knee is bent, the left foot might be turned out just a tiny bit. Do you remember, just 11 o'clock, no further. Feeling through both feet is the same. They sink into the ground and spring back to your spine, so that already when you've got that feeling, you're kind of lifting. That's like the back bend we did last week. You've got your hips going one way and your upper body is lifting out of those hips. And thanks to that feeling of being lifted, we've already created space in the groins here. Now, can you put your fingertips again into those groins, especially the right ones. If the left hand isn't comfortable there, you can put it onto your hip instead. And then can you, as you're pouring the feet into the ground but lifting into the spine, find that space in the crease at the top of that right thigh and just begin to tilt just a little way for this first time. Just tilting over the space in the top of that thigh. So your bottoms are nice and soft, they're travelling back that way. The upper body is folding over the space. And then you can just turn your body a little to the left. Keep it light, keep it springy. And then if you want to, bring the arms into it. Place the fingertips into your sternum. Remember that place between the shoulder blades. That's where your arms begin. Free up your shoulders and just open the arms. And just breathe here, everything loose, everything movable. You can swim around inside your big body. And then come back and change sides. So left foot forwards now, left knee nice and soft, back foot, back leg straighter, again just turned in a tiny bit, kind of 1 o'clock, and then the fingertips into that crease. You can put the right hand either in the other groin, the other crease, or onto your hip. And then to begin with this first one, just tilting over a tiny way, feeling your bottoms travelling backwards, feeling the crown of your skull lengthening away, the whole of your upper body lengthening out of the waistband, and then your body can begin to turn. Keep nice and springy on those legs, don't grip with your toes or with any other part of your body. Bring the fingertips into your sternum. Think about the arms sprouting from that place between the shoulder blades, and from there open them. Don't go flinging them back. Just open them so that they feel really soft and natural, as if you wanted to kind of hug a great big tree lying on its side here. And then just breathing there. And come back. Okay, just as a little rest, we're going to go into a wide-legged forward bend. So take your feet fairly wide, turn your big toes in a little bit so that you're nicely on the outside edges of your feet, also on the inside edges, so you can feel your feet lovely and wide. Same feeling, so the feet are sinking into the ground but springing back up to your spine. You've got space here in the groin. You begin to wiggle your bottom backwards. You let the upper body lengthen forwards. I'm keeping my fingers in the groin there. You might only come this far, or not even. You might need to bend your knees a little bit. You can wag your tail, wiggle it backwards. Keep the shoulders nice and rested. Again, you're going backwards through the bottom and forwards through the upper body. Don't think about going down. If you can get your fingertips onto the ground in front of you, they're not to pull you any more deeply into the posture, they're to do the opposite. As they sink into the ground, they're also, just like your feet, springing you back towards your spine. If you want to go further, little by little, softening the skin. As soon as the outer body starts gripping, closing in on you, do less, pause, wiggle, soften. Maybe the body will let you in more deeply. Keep that sense of being lifted through your bottom. Keep that sense of space in the groin. Breathe. Now to come out of this, just bend your knees a little bit without putting any weight down through them, but just to soften everything up. Come back up onto your fingertips if you'd gone lower, and then the feet sink into the ground and up you come. Okay, coming back to TRIKONASANA with the right foot forwards. Same thing, right knee soft, left leg straighter, but the feeling through both legs exactly the same. And we're going to see if we hinge a little bit deeper this time. Don't have to. You might be happy where we were last time. But again, if you start with your fingertips in the groin there, left hand wherever feels right for you. Really. So here, as I begin to hinge forwards, I don't know how well you can see me, but do you remember when we were on the ground playing with our legs? And I said, use your hands to really cultivate or encourage that feeling of that foot feeding all the way back up through the hip to the spine. Can you feel that? So as the leg feeds back up through the hip to the spine, you might be able to hinge a little bit lower. But you're not, again, the upper body stays really light. Don't let the upper body hang and grow heavy. Just play with this at your own speed. So you might just be happy hinging to there. You might be happy just standing upright and thinking about this leg being pulled back into the body. But if you're a little bit more flexible or you're used to this posture, you can play with hinging a little bit further. And that's when maybe if you've hinged, but again, I don't want you to just collapse and fall into the ground. So please be patient, be humble, be curious. And, you know, the other thing is some of you might be extremely flexible and kind of able to do TRIKONASANA with locked legs and no feeling, no sense of exploration. Try and break some habits. Try and find a different way. This is such an ideal opportunity. These pre-recorded classes, the live classes as well, for you to practice at home, to get used to practicing at home. I don't want to talk myself out of a job when this is all over, but you know, it's so lovely that you can have me here to guide you, but you can explore to your heart's content without worrying about what anybody else is doing. So there's my fingers in that space, feeding that leg back up into the spine, which allows me to hinge further forwards. My bottoms are soft, travelling backwards. Crown of my skull, I'm kind of looking for a distance between the tailbone and the crown of my skull. And then again, maybe that arm will float up. Definitely don't want it flinging backwards. You could be playing around with this arm again, just like we were doing when we were lying on the ground. Let it hang a little bit in front of you so that you can keep cultivating the idea that the arms grow from that place between the shoulder blades. So if you're not feeling that, bring them out of it and then open again. Again, the upper body should still be feeling really nice and light, and you can lift easily back to a standing posture, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So I hope it goes without saying, but you know, I'm doing this at my pace. If you need to be resting in between each posture, rest as often as your body needs to. I've got a lot of things to say, so I'm kind of staying in the postures a little bit longer, but I think you know me well enough to know that that's the last thing I would want you to do. So here we are, left knee is bending, right foot is turned in or out very slightly, just to 1 o'clock. And I'm going to find this space up here in this left groin. And then with my hands, with my fingertips in there, I'm going to start hinging forwards over that space. And then I'm going to really start thinking about this leg, feeding back up through the hip so that the upper body, nice and light, can hinge forwards. Maybe not, you may be up here. It's a lovely place to be as well. You may have come to rest. You might just want to hang out literally up here. If if things are beginning to feel a little bit stuck, if the lower back isn't too happy, then just bounce around up here for a little while. It's a question of going in and out of these places, not just hurrying your way into what you think the posture should be and clenching everything so that you can hold it. Ugh, no. The upper body is lovely and light. So as you pour the feet into the ground, you just float back up. And let's come into our wide-legged forward bend again. So I'm going to start by just loosening everything up, wiggling around a little bit, and then finding that lift up through the groin, to hinge my way backwards through the bottoms, forwards through the upper body. I'm going to start with my hands out in front of me again, not to pull me forwards, quite the opposite. My hands are pushing back, my arms feeding back through the shoulders. So your shoulders need to be loose, move them around a little bit. If you need to bend your knees, then do. If the hands don't reach the ground, it's not a problem. You can rest your hands on to the top of your knees. But just don't lean into your hands. Again, you don't want the upper body to get heavy. everything loose. If you need to bend your knees, bend your knees. You open the back of your neck. And then to come out of this, bend the knees a little bit, wag your tail a little bit, bring the hands back onto the fingertips if you were there, press the feet into the ground, and up you come. Okay, how are we doing for time? Perfect. Alrighty, we're going back into Uttanasana, and then we're going to practice Ardha Chandrasana, the balancing posture that we did again a couple of weeks ago, I think, but from a slightly different place this time. So little gentle chair pose, space in the groin over which the body hinges. Fingertips on the ground, even if you need to bend your knees, that's not a problem, but everything light and springy. Now stay gazing at the ground to help with your balance. Keep the feet pouring into the ground but lifting back up through your tummy button, so you can again really feel that space in the groin. And then this time take the right hand out to the side, alongside your right foot, quite a little way away from you, and lifting up into your tummy button, you're going to lift the left leg. Okay, so the right hand isn't in front of you, it's alongside you. You don't have to lift the back leg too high. What I'm interested in is the space in that right groin. For the moment you've got both hands on the ground and you're gazing at the ground, helping you to balance. Bring that left leg down. Bring the hands back kind of in front of the feet. Or again, they might just be resting on your knees if Uttanasana is, if you're not quite there yet. And then the same thing, you're going to take the left hand out to the side, alongside your left foot, a little bit away from it. Draw up through that left leg and lift the right leg. Yeah, it doesn't have to lift too high. What you're focusing on is the space in that groin, in the left leg. If the left knee needs to be bent, that's fine. You've got both hands to help you balance, and you're gazing at the ground. And then bring that right foot down, come back into Uttanasana. And the same thing, the right hand goes out to the side. It's about a foot away from my right foot. You're going to lift the left leg, and this time if you want to, try lifting the left hand. You can place it onto your hip, and if you're feeling confident in the posture, you can begin to turn the waist to the left a little, and maybe even let that left arm float up into the sky. Otherwise the left hand might still be on the ground. It's quite strong in that right leg. Try and keep the space at the top of the groin. Bring the left hand back down. Bring the right hand in front of you. Bring the left foot down, wiggle it out. Everything recenter in Uttanasana or half Uttanasana if that's where you are. One last time, left hand out to the side. Lift the right leg, don't be in a hurry. If you can lift the right hand, place it on your hip. Keep making space in that left groin. And if you've got your balance and you're feeling confident, open the belly to the right. And eventually perhaps let the right arm float up. Bring the right hand down, left hand in front. Bring the right foot down. Walk it out in Uttanasana. And then just going to finish with downward dog, so just walking your hands forwards a little. Bend your knees. Remember, we're not looking for a posture, we're looking for softness and looseness. Soften your shoulders, soften your hips. And then can you come back to the play? Soften the body to allow the inhalation to swell the belly and fill the chest. And then as you exhale, feet and hands pour into the ground. Remember that feeling of the belly button lying back towards the spine, the throat too. Don't hold it, soften again, breathe in. You might feel yourself collapsing a little as you do that. The neck retreating into the shoulders. But then as you breathe out, everything pours down and the body lifts. The head emerges again. One last time, soften as you breathe in. Breathe out, pour into the ground. We're going to come down onto the knees, but can you come as slowly as you can? Almost as though you're resisting the descent. Imagine giant hands around your waist lifting you, and each time you're trying to resist that lift and bend the knees a little bit more. But you keep being lifted so that eventually, careful of the shoulders, keep lifting through the shoulders as well. And eventually when the knees come to touch, they'll be as light as feathers. There. Toes are still tucked under. Just begin to sit back into your heels, taking any weight out of your hands. So you can begin to, if your wrists were suffering a little, you can come into little fist shapes there. And we're working more with the toes now, just as we're coming to the end of the class. Just keeping the hands there to help support you. And I'm just sort of waving back and forth, just giving my toes a lovely massage. And really trying to go to the very corners of my little toes, my big toes. Some of you, if your toes, think of it as a massage, not as a torture. And some of you may then be able to lift your hands. I say it really is a question of convincing yourself that the toes are loving this, because they are, really. If you're still lifting through your spine, then you're not heavy squishing into your toes. And then unfurl them. Yummy, yummy. Sit back onto your heels, and then if you can, take your hands back behind you and just lift the knees for a second. So just lengthening the feet in the opposite direction. That might not be possible for some of you, but do you remember last week we were kneeling in Virasana? So if that was difficult for you, then this is going to be not very pleasant at all. But little by little, little by little. Okay. And then we're going to come down to relax. So grab yourselves a blanket if you need one, or a jumper, and find your way down into Shavasana. So with the knees bent to begin with, feet flat on the floor. Install your upper body. You may feel that you need to just bring the knees into the chest and rock around, or make some little circular movements. Just avoid ever overstretching the lower back by really yanking those knees in towards you. Think much more about loosening and softening the lower back rather than stretching. And then when you're ready, when you feel your upper body is nicely settled, arms either side of you, slightly away from you, palms facing upwards, freeing up the lumbar spine. And if all of that feels comfy, you can lengthen one leg along the mat, let the toes drop, and then the other leg. Let the toes drop. Again, the back of the neck long and wide. Don't let the head fall back. And close your eyes. And just observe once again the way that your body is vibrating, tingling, the way that your body feels. That was some quite intense work that we've practiced, so yeah, just it's almost as though you take a little step away from yourself and observe your body from a little distance and just notice how it feels. And notice how your breath is breathing. Use each inhalation to scan your body. Because even when we think we're relaxed, this might happen to you in bed sometimes, you suddenly realise that, oh my gosh, I was holding on there. There was tension still there. So with each inhalation you, as I say, really scan your body, looking out for any little areas. It might be your toes, or very often it's our jaw, or maybe that space between your eyebrows. Perhaps you're frowning still. And then use your exhalations to breathe into those places and allow them to soften. Practice staying focused on your breath. Very often, it's completely normal, our mind, we suddenly realize in the same way that we might suddenly realize that we were holding on to a certain place in our body. We also sometimes suddenly realize that our thoughts have gone, goodness knows where, completely run away with themselves. And the practice is in getting better at realizing when that happens, because it will happen. It might happen very, very often. But you just stay patient, stay kind. Just notice, it's not a problem, but bring your awareness back to scanning your body as you breathe in and to releasing tension as you breathe out. Now, I think what I'm going to do is leave you here, because some of you might like to stay in this place of relaxation for a little bit longer, and you can. Another advantage of practicing at home. So I just remind you that whenever you feel ready to come out of Shavasana, just do it slowly, by rolling onto one side and taking your time. I'm going to wish you peace and I look forward to the next time we meet, be that online or in a video or before too long in the studio. So stay for as long as you like now. I'm going to finish the video and I shall see you next time.